welcome to MG number 266. That's the masculine geek and the art of motorcycle maintenance and all things motorcycle, not just maintenance, because it is getting warmer and that means riding time. If I sound like shit, it's because I feel like shit and I do exactly sound like shit. I have a 101 fever. I've got a flu, and this is going to be a very short episode. So, here's Robert. He's not. His devices are not connected, so I cannot admit him to the studio. Yep. So, how you guys doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm feeling better than you, apparently.
Oh, definitely. Oh, there he is. That's a nice shot of your ceiling, Robert.
Trying to show his balls.
I like it.
No, he hasn't gotten $20 yet.
Right.
No, I'm saving that for Cappy.
Yeah.
If he shows.
Yeah, Aaron. There's a 50% chance that Aaron Clary may show up. We'll see. Oh man. Anyway, so that's how you lure Aaron in with the $20,
Lure a wild Cappy,
right? It's his natural habitat. Oh, all right. So, I lost my train of thought. So TJ, you were saying you're not riding it this year because it's too cold.
Yeah, I have a policy. I won't ride if it's raining or really wet. If it's and obviously if it's been snowing, I won't ride in the dark, and I won't ride under certain temperatures because of the wind chill factor. And yes, I could theoretically dress up like Neil Armstrong and walk outside like I'm about to go on the moon. That's not fun. It's not fun, and also once you stop riding, if the temperature, let's say it's in the 60s, and you're armored up, it just, you have to take everything off to kind of do anything. So, and it's almost its own kind of trip that you have to plan out. So, and that's just for where I live. If I lived in a suburban neighborhood, I probably would be riding all the time because I could just go from one place to another. But because I live off a state highway, it's, the speed limit is 60 miles per hour. So I don't get to like cruise at 35, at 65 degrees. So that's me, not giving advice for anybody else, but so far, no rides this year.
Gotcha. How about you, AJ? You've been riding pretty consistently lately, right?
Yeah, because me being a bonehead, trying to fix my car and probably breaking it some more. So I've turned my motorcycle into my main form of transportation right now. I just got home after pulling a 12-hour shift, doing on average about 70 the whole way home.
Nice.
The bike like 70, 75.
Okay. Shall we show your, let's see, let me go over to present, share screen. It'd help if I actually open up the window first. There we go. Window.
And thank you, Robert, for suggesting me send Vince these pics.
Not a problem. I try to contribute something to our shows as far as
Why is this not showing up? Huh, that's weird. Yeah, I have the window open of the photos, and window is one of the options for sharing. For whatever reason, it's decided.
Did you hit the present button?
Well, you do share screen, and it gives you, there's tabs. There's Chrome tab, window, or entire screen. So you go to window. That's where usually the windows will show up, like the file navigator. But for whatever reason, the file navigator is not opening up in the tab. It doesn't make any sense. All right.
I can just tell them what I ride if that helps.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, good.
Yeah. So my current ride is a 2017 Victory Octane. They only made, I think, 5,000 of them. It was Polaris's last motorcycle under the Victory brand before they pulled the plug and went full-time Indian. So it's kind of like the Indian Scouts test mule with a little extra oomph.
Nice.
Yep, that's a lot. 25
Oh,
gloves,
goddamn.
10 pairs of shoes.
I just wear my Red Wings that I use at work.
There you go. I do have separate motorcycle boots, and I have 2 different leather jackets. A lightweight one and a winter weight one.
Yeah.
Have a motorcycle closet just for your gear. Jesus.
Motorcycling better than sex though? That's a close one. I could say that anxiety from motorcycle riding, depending on where you're riding, is better than sex. But overall, nah, sex beats it.
Well, when you hit our age, you'll think differently. Like I can't be bothered. Fuck it.
It's only 12 years, man. Don't scare me like that.
Like give a shit.
Yeah.
I would rather. Sometimes I would rather ride. Hell, sometimes I'd rather sit down and fucking drink coffee and read. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
Things change with age. Not everything, but you get a different perspective. But my ride is a 2020 Kawasaki Vulcan, 900cc. It's matte black, silver, a bit of gray. Wish I could show. Oh, I could. Let's see. Let's go over here and open it up this way. Photo editor. What the hell? No, that's not what I want. Let's see here. Present. Screen.
Oh, technically, mine's a special edition.
There we go. Can you see that?
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Blimey, she's a beauty.
Yeah. So that's.
Of course, not as beautiful as mine, but we'll let that go.
Well, we'll have to share yours too. Let me go grab AJ's. So I'm sharing it through the email because
I was going to say, TJ, didn't Vince pop the cherry on yours?
No, he did not. Vince has never been to Washington State.
Oh,
there's a reason.
Oh no,
that's.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking of James's bike. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. James got his bike from Vince, right?
My first bike is
yeah.
Still is a Suzuki Boulevard S40.
Yeah,
I sold to James for $500.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just remembering incorrectly. I knew that someone had bought his bike, and I was for some reason I thought TJ, but no, it was James.
James,
yeah.
And this is AJ's.
That's actually the picture that made me buy the bike. That was at the dealership.
Okay.
Total of 2,800 miles on it in 2019 when I bought it. It's 2017 model.
Mm-hmm.
$8,000 out the door. Said and done.
So mine was I bought it in 2020. It was a 2020 Honda Rebel on the the showroom floor. Not 1 mile, not even a 0.0. Never touched, test driven, whatever. Was there? I walked right into the showroom, looked over Honda Rebel, and said,
"It called you, didn't it?"
She called me. Stella called to me.
Stella.
Yeah. Go type in like blue Honda Rebel 2020.
All right, blue.
I mean, don't die on us while you're doing it.
I might. 2020.
Yeah, 2020.
Ooh, that was a good year of blues from Honda on their bikes. Those are beautiful colors.
I've had people at traffic stops roll down their window and be like, "Dude, that bike's beautiful."
Yeah.
It's chain. Let's see here. Share. I'm having a boomer moment. Share screen. There we go.
Yeah.
That.
Yep, that is it. That's Stella.
How many cc's?
Mine is 300,
Okay.
I think, or 350. I can't remember honestly.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I got the instruction manuals right here.
There you go. It's probably 500.
Yeah, it's at 300. No, 500. So the thing that I liked about this is not only was a beautiful bike, but it was incredibly affordable, brand new. Like we're talking brand new. I mean, you go to get a Harley Davidson, it's like $15,000.
Yeah,
you know,
for a 883 Sportster.
Yeah. So I bought mine. I mean, with taxes and all, it was like it was under $5,000.
That's not bad.
No.
Yeah.
How much I paid? That's exactly how much I paid for my first bike, which was a 05 Shadow Saber 1100.
Oh yeah, let's share that. Hang on.
So yeah, it's been a great bike. I just, speaking of maintenance, since this is an episode, one of the things that I've had to do or remind myself to do when there's a long period of time where I'm not riding it is I have a bike chain lubricant that I go spray on it because I keep it in a garage workshop area during the winter. And I just spray the chain just to keep it lubricated, because what happened was I was riding it a couple of years ago and it would like pull back just randomly. And I'm like, I wanted to go take it to a mechanic to get it fixed. And then I started like Googling, just trying to figure out like what is going on here. And I finally realized there was one like spot in the chain that was rusted over and would like freeze for a second and then go. So I just sprayed the living daylights out of it, took a metal brush and just scrubbed every single part of that the bike chain, and haven't had any problems since. But yeah, you gotta watch out for rust, especially in where there's a lot of moisture. So
Gotcha. Yeah, mine's belt driven, so I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, the Honda Rebel is like the best. If you want a cafe racer, it's the best. It's the closest you're going to get at an affordable price, and especially at 300. Because I probably shouldn't have. I'm glad I didn't get the 500. There wasn't any 500 cc. Yeah, it's a great starter bike. The only thing is, it's not suitable for long-term riding. So like over,
Yeah,
it just you have to be upright and all this kind of crazy stuff. Whereas there's clearly bikes that are designed to be long-term riding. You know, you're just sitting there, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I'll show you the first bike, the Boulevard. That's the Boulevard. That's 40.
I always like the retro paint jobs on those bikes.
Yeah, that was really. I enjoyed that as my first bike. That was a 650 too. Now the funny thing about that, and I've told this story before, but it's worth sharing again, especially since you haven't heard it, AJ. This bike I purchased from a buddy of mine at work. He got it from a friend of his who he traded a pinball machine for. So my buddy does pinball mechanics and arcade mechanics as a side hustle. He's been doing that since his time in the Air Force when he lived in Hawaii. That was his job after he got out of the Air Force, and he's been doing that ever since. And he's my age. So a friend of his bought that bike and was going to learn how to ride it, and he did. He put about 56 miles on it. It was a 2011. And then lost interest. He didn't want to do it. So he kept the garage kept. And I basically bought a couple years ago. I basically bought it brand new, 2011. You know, a little over 300 miles for $2,000.
That is pretty much brand new. Like I considered mine pretty much brand new when I bought it with like 2,800 miles on it for only 2 years old.
Yeah, it was a very good deal. I was very happy with that as my first bike.
Yeah. Speaking of maintenance things to check up on, and this is something I failed to do on my motorcycle, was check your clutch cable, guys, and like grease it periodically and adjust it periodically, because I actually replaced mine because I did not touch it at all from the 4 years I owned it. That
How do
thing,
you
I was
grease
holding it. Grease it. You just put some like white lithium grease right on the balls of the end of the cable on either end, whether it's on the lever or actually on the clutch
Oh,
fork.
I see. Okay, gotcha.
Put some grease on that. Like I was having to I couldn't get in neutral with it running. I literally had to stay on the clutch handle and the brake to keep it from moving. So,
Oh crap!
make sure you guys grease it and check up on it periodically. And OEM clutch cables are ridiculous. Witchdoctor.com will take care of your Polaris brands with a good aftermarket brand clutch cable for like half the price of the OEM one.
Oh, okay, it's good to know. But yeah, it's pretty basic as far as like keeping up with your oil changes and your air filters and stuff like that, and brake fluid.
I totally misread what somebody was telling me about changing the oil on my motorcycle. They said, yeah, change it out. When I first bought it, they go, change it after the first 600 miles or 800 miles or whatever. I'm like, okay. So I started doing that every 800 miles. And I was talking to a guy at a mechanic shop when I was having it worked on. I'm like, yeah, I just changed the oil because it was, the 800 miles. And he's like, dude, you don't have to change this for like this, or sorry.
Every
It's like
5,000 miles.
It's like 8,000 miles or something like that. Not 600. So I was like, oh, I've been changing it pretty frequently. But yeah, I haven't really had to do any maintenance on it other than stuff from like, it being dropped or something. So it's buying brand new bike has been nice. Like the maintenance has been very minimal. And that was actually something Cappy told me. He said, do not buy an old bike. If you're a new rider, buy a brand new bike.
Yeah.
Because you just don't have to deal with that stuff, and it's a safety thing. And he was right. I'll admit it. Cappy was right.
He's right every once in a while. Yeah.
And also, bikes don't depreciate nearly as fast as cars. They kind of depreciate and then they kind of like just hold their value.
It's definitely slow.
Well, especially if they're a really nice bike or they have that kind of classic. But yeah, cars lose their value like so quickly. It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh man.
Like my next bike, I'm willing to drop 30 G's on it, but it's gonna not drop below 20 G's for like 20 years.
Yeah. I'll probably hold on to mine for another few more years and then trade it in.
That's pretty much what I plan on doing. I'll probably up to a Challenger or a Pursuit from Indian.
Nice.
Because the wind down here in DFW, like I was driving home tonight, 16 mile an hour crosswind from the northwest or from the northeast, and it was still blowing me around. And I've ridden a Challenger, and the Challenger and Pursuit are pretty much the same bike, just one's the touring edition and one's not for touring. That big fixed front fairing cuts the wind down here like it's nothing.
Yeah. That's another thing you have to worry about. There are crosswinds.
They're bad down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a problem. Crosswinds on certain highways is why I will never ride them. I was talking to a mechanic and I said, yeah, I tried to ride this thing down I-90. And he goes, yeah, dude, you don't ever ride this bike down I-90. And I go, well, what kind of like you ride on this area? And he goes, none.
Right.
Just there's certain parts of Interstate 90 that you don't ride a bike down, at least in his opinion. And I think he's right, because the wind was so strong, my bike would have taken wing. If it had wings, it would have taken flight.
Oh yeah, man. Because I used to live up in the Seattle area, and I worked in Seattle. Worked for Talgo, the company that made the train that derailed in 2017.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, my company built the train. We were not found at fault. But one of the guys I worked with, Scott, he went to Sturgis one year, and when he was coming back through Snoqualmie Pass, it was snowing.
Oh God.
He was coming down Snoqualmie Pass as it was snowing on his street glide. Said that was the worst ride he's ever had in his life.
What? That's where I rode during the summer, and it was still freaking, crazy.
Well, yeah.
That's where I would just pull over and, stay at a hotel or inn or something like that.
think he said air temp was like 22 degrees when he was coming down.
That's cold.
That's before the wind chill factor.
Yeah.
That's
And then,
frostbite your fingers.
Another time, I'm waiting for him to come into work, and we're trying to get a train out, and his Harley dies because it was one of those really hot days in Seattle, and it was night shift. His clutch lost what the heck is it? Clutch power or whatever. The gripping strength of the clutch because the oil was just too hot.
Yeah.
So he's just sitting there for like 4 hours on the side of I-5 trying to get in, and it happened to be like Mariners game going on, so traffic's always crap.
Oh man,
it's crazy.
That's great. That's insane. It's one thing I haven't done yet is taking it cross country very far.
I don't think I'll ever do it. I don't think I'll ever do a cross country ride because not just on this bike, but like I can't stay that. Of course, the train's coming. I can't stay that focused. And what I mean by that is motorcycle riding is very mentally taxing because you have to be so alert at all times, especially on Highway 2 where I live. Whereas if I was riding in like a quiet suburban neighborhood, you kind of can a little bit relax. Like nothing's going to come at you very quickly necessarily. I wouldn't know that because I don't really ride in suburban areas very much. But when you're going really fast, every little motion makes a big difference. So you just have to be very alert, and everything happens much faster. And your body motion determines, your direction. Whereas in a car, I mean, there's been times when I'm like, not in the greatest mood or whatever, and I'm driving my SUV, and I'm like, okay, I can kind of like just be on cruise control
a little bit.
Well, I can be on cruise control and be in the the right lane, but with motorcycles, it's like no, you can't. If you lean like this a little bit, the bike's gonna go that way. But in an SUV, you lean like this, but
you're not moving a 7,000-pound SUV.
Yeah.
I was talking to Vince about this right before we went live, right before you got in here. I want to consider like motorcycle riding and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu are very similar. Where your body automatically starts subconsciously making the tweaks to keep you on the road. Same thing like Jiu-Jitsu, you're trying to pass some black belt's guard and you keep failing, but your body's constantly making little tweaks, figuring out how to break his guard.
Yeah.
So like the whole thing, like with the crosswinds that I deal with, like it's just a slight little tweak, and I know I'm gonna move the bike against the crosswinds perfectly.
Yeah,
there's definitely a Zen-like meditation to motorcycle riding. And I've mentioned this before, but I don't listen to music or anything in my helmet. I want to make sure I'm alert and aware and just enjoying what I'm doing without that distraction. I know a lot of guys will put those external speakers, hook up the external speakers and shit. I'm like, that's obnoxious. I get it. Maybe it's good for longer rides if you are going cross country. But
that is one thing I want to do when I do get that Challenger Pursuit is I do want to either drive up to Sturgis or go to Daytona Bike Week.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I was saying I've visited neighboring states. I've been to New York and Pennsylvania, down in Delaware, but not too much farther than that. But I might. I think before I shuffle off this mortal coil, I may want to do a longer road trip. I just don't have a burning. I'm like TJ. I just don't have a burning desire to do so right now.
Yeah. So. I mean, if I wanted to, Oklahoma is only like an hour and a half away from me.
Oh, okay.
Cross state lines.
I say, wasn't Cappy at Sturgis last year?
Both him and Paul from Come On Podcast. They met up over there, and then I think Cappy gave Paul a quick tour, said, "Hey, this is Sturgis. All right, get the fuck out." And then they went to like some outside the downtown bar area and enjoyed like not being in the crowded area.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing those photos. That was pretty cool.
And I want to say Glenn Lawrence was a bitch, and he had his bike towed up to Sturgis.
Yeah, Aaron was giving him some shit about it. And his girl came with him. So
Glenn's or Paul's?
Glenn's.
Okay, so we don't think Nurse Chick exists. We think it's a figment of Paul's imagination, and he logs in as her to hype himself up.
So it's all like like one of those imaginary friends when you're a kid.
Imaginary girlfriend.
I was literally just saying to a guy on Twitter, Neil Diamond's Shiloh is the song, is the final word on Imaginary Friends, because it's such a great song.
It's been a while since I've heard that. Isn't that a gift you gave to somebody?
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm not gonna try and sing it right now. I could. I sing it in the shower, but
no, don't sing. I don't think anybody wants to hear that right now.
Why? Not when they have 101 temperature.
Not me. No, I'm ready to die over here.
Yeah, you definitely sound like it.
No, it's pretty bad. There's a couple people at work that have it too. I was just going around. My whole body aches. Like, I didn't even know that muscle existed. Where the fuck did that come from?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna keep this one very, very brief. Oh, do you have any questions for us, Robert, as far as motorcycles go? And a question back at you once you go ahead. Or is riding a motorcycle something you ever thought of doing?
Well, I had 2 motorcycles.
Okay.
I had well, they were both the same, but one was actually functioning. The other one could have been with some effort, but the guy who gave it to me said, he was just giving it to me as a parts bike since they were the same make and model, but they were 1970 Honda 350s.
Nice.
And so I had those. I only got to kind of mess around on the one really briefly once, and then they went into the garage, and I was just so busy with work and everything else and just the crappy weather here in Indy. I never really got to do much with them. And then around the time I was getting divorced, my ex-wife gave them to someone.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
what a kick in the balls.
We need the Space Marine heretic right now.
Yeah. So that's okay. I had a oh goodness, about 3 foot tall vinyl Godzilla model from Japan that she gave away as well. So
what's this giveaway shit? What the? Oh my God.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Oh man.
That's all right. She looks like her mother now, so I think I got the better end of the deal. It was almost worth losing some of my stuff.
Right.
But no, I've thought about it. I just I would want. I think it's one of those things where now I'm concerned that I am too old to invest in the bike and learning to ride it and knowing just how bad drivers are around here, especially these last few years. Just 2 weeks ago, I'm driving home from work very late at night. There's not a lot of traffic. And this car just merges over into the side of my car.
What?
Yeah. And then, of course, I honk.
Were they sleeping?
And I have no idea. All I know is it was a pretty nice car, and they floored it. And, we were cruising at about 70 miles an hour when they, pitted into the side of me.
Oh, shit.
But they floored it, and we're going well in excess of 100 miles an hour. And I started after them for a little bit, and it's like, nah, it's they're gone. And so fortunately not a lot of damage to the side of the car. Looked like they had done more damage to the side of their car. So, but that's the thing. There was no one around me. There was no reason they should have hit me because I was where they were coming from my blind side. They should have been able to see me because I was in front of them.
Yeah.
So, and I wasn't switching lanes or anything. So they were switching lanes into me. So, because there are so many people around here who don't have driver's licenses and therefore don't have insurance or anything else, because they're not necessarily in this state or country legally, amongst other things. It's just, getting a bike, learning how to ride it at 55, and then going out, where would I go? What would I do? And it just, the risk versus the rewards, just, the math doesn't add up for me right now, unfortunately. Which is kind of a shame, because I mean, motorcycles are cool. I've always thought they were cool. I thought they were cool when they could fly in Galactica 1980. I thought they were cool in the Roger Corman biker movies from the 1960s that I saw on late night television. So, and I can definitely see
Steve McQueen.
Yeah, I in The Great Escape, I can see the appeal of bikes, like most little boys. Well, especially you and I, Vince, because we're around the same generation. We grew up with Evel Knievel jumping stuff.
I think I still have the toy, but I used to have the toy.
Yeah, same here. So, yeah, I definitely had the interest in it. And like I said, when I was about 21, I acquired a bike, those two bikes, but I never got to do much with them between work and kids and everything else. And then, like I said, lost them in the divorce, and it just was never a higher priority to get them. And as I've told you before, really the thing I think about getting now is a replica of my first car, which was a 70 Pontiac Firebird 350. So I would love to get, an old car like that.
I totally support that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm more interested in doing that now. Now, if I was even TJ's age, so just, a decade or two younger, I don't know. I probably would look into getting a nice little touring bike and learning to ride it and do some stuff with it. But again, if we're going back in time, traffic here was not nearly as bad as it is now, and the drivers were much better than they are.
They weren't distracted.
No. Oh yeah. They weren't as distracted. There weren't as many of them. And so it's a missed opportunity, I'm afraid, for me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know. I always liked the idea of riding a motorcycle casually through a suburban neighborhood or like some quiet neighborhood. I get the whole thrill of like riding, 100 miles per hour down a highway or whatever. But for me, I always saw kind of motorcycle riding as being, for me personally, as being sort of a casual thing where it's relaxed and not like super intense. So right now I don't have that. And if that opportunity isn't available to somebody, I can't say it's a huge, as big of a loss as people might think, because you see stuff in movies or like Steve McQueen or whatever. And Steve McQueen was like a motorcycle enthusiast before he did the film. That was actually a condition of him doing the film. He said, I will not do this film unless there's a motorcycle scene.
Right.
Which didn't happen in real life. But he just said, because he had been in a bunch of World War II films that hadn't like done well at the box office. And he's like, I don't want to do a third one that's going to bomb. And the studio executives were already they were already uncomfortable with the fact that there was no romance in this film. So he we watched that stuff and it's cool. It's kind of like I was watching Mission Impossible with one of the movies where there was like this crazy motorcycle ride. It's cool to watch, but doing it, there's a lot of money, prep work, a lot of risk. So
yeah. No, but the idea of taking it down a country road, cruising down from, say, Indianapolis down to Nashville, Indiana, or Brown County or something like that, that sounds absolutely awesome and great. But even on country roads now,
Yeah.
It's
Well, you turn a
ridiculously dangerous because of people just not knowing
pay
how to
attention.
drive or paying attention to their driving. So
Yeah, I can. That's the biggest problem with the side roads here is that there's so many tight corners where, with motorcycle riding, you look to where you want to turn. Well, if you turn a corner, you don't know where direction you have to turn once you get around that corner, and also that means you're going to want to be on the far left side of that lane if you're going,
Mhm.
turn to the right. Well, a lot of cars on country roads they cross the meridian or
oh yeah,
they cross
Yeah.
the center lane.
Immediate.
And the other thing is there's a lot of this isn't a big deal necessarily with cars, but with motorcycles, you can't have potholes to hit. You like, if you're going really fast, you have to know like you don't brake. You got to like navigate around it. So it's just a different mindset. This is why I don't ride motorcycles as much on certain roads because I just know it's so mentally taxing to be alert continuously. It's kind of like I'm not equating it entirely like this, but I'm saying it's almost like being in a war zone where you have a 360-degree point of threat, where just everything is a potential threat to you, and it's exhilarating, but at the same time, when you're done, you're exhausted.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, I live in Dallas, Fort Worth, so it's the fourth largest metro in the country. It's a good day if I almost don't get hit 3 times. That's a good day. I made the joke with Vince earlier. I'm like, man, you got to stop inviting me on these shows on Wednesdays because every Wednesday that I'm invited on, there's a rider down at least. Like, I'll drive by a rider down. I'm like, oh my God.
well,
Yeah.
and I've driven those roads down in the Dallas area, and I mean, they're 30, 40, 50 feet up in the air, it seems like,
Oh,
and you
flyovers?
have to exit to the far right to go to the far left, and the left to go to the. It just you get off like a mile before your road because that's where the little side exit is. It's
Yeah.
the roads down in that Dallas Fort Worth area are just crazy, and they just get
The drivers
worse
are
with the
aggressive as
traffic the
hell.
more into Dallas you get
Yeah.
proper.
Look-
So
Luckily, most of the time when I've only ridden the bike once into Dallas proper, and that was for a concert.
mhm.
But most of the time, because I live like just east of Fort Worth, and then I
Mhm.
work in Garland area, so it's like northeast Dallas. So
Right.
I just take I take the 183 onto the Loop 12, and then hit 35 east because
Mhm.
35 splits into 2 different highways, and then take the 635 all the way up to 75, and I'm at work.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah. For TJ, if you ever get the chance, though, man, I did it once while I was still in the Navy when I had my first bike.
Yeah.
The 101 loop on the Hood Canal. Like follow the Hood Canal side of the 101 loop up towards what the heck is towns? Like go down to Shelton and then take the
Yeah.
101 on that side. If you take that road,
Oh,
oh my God, that
yes,
is one of the
I've-
best rides ever.
I think I know which one you're talking about because I've driven it.
Yeah, take that
Yes.
on a bike. Yeah,
Yes.
go
I
from
drove
Shelton
that.
up to the Hood Canal Bridge and then take the Highway 3 back across into Kitsap.
Yes. So I did drive that, and I was looking at that saying that would be a fantastic motorcycle ride.
It is. I recommend everyone who lives up in that area to take that ride. Even if you do the complete 101 loop, so around the whole entire Olympic Peninsula would be fun too. But I've only done the Hood Canal side of the 101.
Yeah, crazy.
There is one turn that scared the crap out of me because like everyone's doing like
Yeah.
55, 60, and then you see the speed advisory sign for like 25. You're like, what? Nah. And then you come down the hill, and you're like, oh.
So the
that's
speed
why it's
advisory,
25.
the speed limit for a car is an advisory. A speed limit, when they have a speed limit for a motorcycle, that is the max if you're going to physically make the turn. Like when
Yeah.
they say it's 25 miles per hour, you're going 23, 22, 21. If you want to, unless you're a really good rider, you're not going to make the turn.
I was lucky to make that turn. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
My peg and frame were dragging.
Yeah, that's why I freak out when I see stuff where, and that's the problem is that cars don't understand. It's drivers in cars who are not motorcycle riders don't understand. We are going very slow around these turns where you're riding our ass. We're not going slow because we're slow riders. We're going slow because physics demands that we slow down.
Exactly.
We cannot go any faster around that corner.
So, like, case in point, we're down here where 635 west turns into 121 south. There's a big sweeping corner. I'll slow down from 75, 80 down to 55 to take that corner. But as soon as it straightens up and I know I'm clear, I'm back
Yeah.
up to 70 like that.
It drives me nuts how drivers do not. There's another thing that freaks me out is like how they don't respect the space between you and them when you're doing a tight turn or a tight corner or whatever. And you just if anything bad happens, I'm getting run over.
Yeah.
I just that's not. I had people try and talk me out of getting a motorcycle. This is what I found fascinating. Not one of them ever said anything about bad drivers. It was always about how I was, about me. But, if I ever have a son and he wants to get a motorcycle, I'll say, son, the most dangerous thing will never be you. It'll be the drivers of cars on the road because they can screw up and not die. They hit you, you're dead.
Yeah. I always tell them, like, assume everyone's trying to kill you and you'll be fine.
The one nice thing about Highway 2, I gotta say, is there's such long stretches that I can see traffic coming up ahead. And so if it starts slowing down a mile ahead of me, I know to slow down slightly. And I slow down enough to where I got enough space between me and the car behind me. I know to slow down. And if they don't start slowing down, I just hug the shoulder. So if I have to get right onto the shoulder to avoid being like rear-ended, which happens commonly.
Yeah.
And that's the nice thing about that section of Highway 2. I don't like going 60 miles per hour. There's been some times when I've gone really fast, but like there's some days I just want to get in the motorcycle and just go 35, 40, and that tops and just cruise around and have some fun. But because you don't have to be that aware of what's going on. But when you're going 60 miles per hour or over, now you have to watch for everything, because everything happens so fast. So if there's a pothole and I'm going 25, I have time to respond and just go around it. You're going 65, 70, 80, and there's a pothole, you better be seeing it far ahead, because if you hit it, you're gone.
Or you get like the groove pavement in the middle of the highway. That is oh my god! It's like,
yes,
I gotta slow down or else I'm gonna death wobble, and I'm still gonna death wobble, but not as bad.
Well, the other thing that's crazy, and guy was explaining this to me. He goes, "Look, when you're on a highway or a road that's commonly used, you have to either be on the far left or the far right. The center is a crown because it's used to having the vehicle tires, pound it down. So." And especially you have to worry about this when you're trying to even move within the lane, you got to go over the crown. And if you're going too slow and you're not prepared, that could cause problems.
It's gonna knock you back over.
Yeah. Oh, talking about knocking back over. When I was on I-90, the wind was so strong, I got pushed into another lane. And it's like, if there had been another car, I would have been in trouble. And
I know that feeling all too well, because I'm on that 1200cc cruiser, but it only weighs 530 pounds. So you put me on there with gear, it's maybe 700 pounds total. Wind will push me around.
It's crazy. It's so crazy. I wish somebody had said that to me when all these people were trying to talk me out of getting a motorcycle. I wish they would have said, "Hey, here's some stuff to think about. Somebody else is an idiot. They don't die. You will. They, whatever. You're on a motorcycle. If there's wind, that affects your vehicle to an extent. You can slow down. On a bike, that will just immediately push you into another lane. Also, it's going to blast your face. You want to go drive during the winter, you don't have to think about, bundling up in the car. If you're going on a motorcycle and it's below 60, you have to bundle up, because if you have extremities that your hands kind of get what's the right word? There's not good blood circulation. You're not going to be able to do the clutch and work all the stuff that you need, because motorcycles, everything is very sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with cars, it's not very. It depends on the car. There's some cars that have very sensitive accelerators. They have very sensitive brakes. But it's not. It's nothing compared to a motorcycle where everything is very finely tuned.
No,
So
I want to say it was about a month ago. It was one of our last cold days. My car was just going down because of the first issue that I had. I was trying to get fixed. When I left work in the morning, because it was before I went back to days, it was 28 degrees. I had to stop at a Quick Trip halfway home, local gas station chain, and put my
Yeah.
hand in the pizza warmer to get my hands warm again.
I was riding my motorcycle a couple of years ago, and it was 40 degrees, and my I was wearing a full mask. The mask
face.
froze. Yeah, the mask froze. My hands got numb. I had to stop. That was one of the few times in my life I've genuinely been afraid of dying. And so I just stopped, got off on the shoulder, and I just like I would not get on back on the bike until there was no cars behind me, and I went 35 miles per hour, but I could not feel my hands.
Yeah, that's about like I want to say about 20 to 30 minutes into a ride at that temperature, below 40, I'll lose complete feel in my hands. So like, okay, this isn't so bad. It's like the first 20, 30 minutes, this sucks. And once my hands go numb, it's just like, yeah, I'm just like, okay. This
Oh
isn't
yeah,
bad.
my face was completely just numb, and so I just thought, you know what, I got a new rule. It's got to be at least minimum 70 for me to go ride on a bike, and that's where I can just wear regular stuff. I prefer it be like 78. That because then that way you can wear kind of, you have to look like an astronaut in order to go for a ride. I get that there's some guys who do the whole t-shirt and jeans stuff. I made that mistake once, not doing it again.
I do that when it gets above 95 here.
Yeah, that's me. That's me in the summertime. I don't care. I mean, could I get road rash and lose my arms? Yeah, but I can't live that way. I'm not.
I got the road rash, and I'm still alive.
Because down here it gets last summer I think our highest was 114 degrees.
Yeah,
like I'm dying.
The thing at the same time is that
red lights.
With motorcycles, the importance is being able to have your body loose enough to where you can do the maneuvering that you need to do. The problem with when it gets cold is that your body, especially your hips. I mean, I was explaining this to one of my young relatives. I said, look, on a motorcycle, you can move the bike, you can turn your entire bike through a whole ride just by moving your hips and moving the weight. That's it. You never have to turn the handles. You just move your hips and it moves all your weight, and then that turns the bike. But if your whole body's like frozen or stiff or whatever, and especially your hips, you're not gonna be able to turn when you need to turn the way you need to be.
Yeah, I was talking to Vince a couple weeks ago when I had my rear tire actually went flat. Somehow like popped the bead and I got it back on. But on the way home from the gas station, getting it back on, I'm like, man, I got a retard turn. He's like, retard turn. I'm like, gotta use the handlebars to turn. I can't lean.
Yeah. You really do not have to use the I've hardly ever had to do this except when you're going really slow. Like, you're going 10 miles per hour, 5, and you're just trying to turn it into a parking lot or something like that. But yeah, for the most part, you can just lean or move your hips, or you just look where you want to go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's all that stuff that people just didn't care to mention when they were talking to me about motorcycle riding. And I was like, you guys, I'm not saying I wouldn't have done it. I just would have gone into it a little bit more, where I would have been more, what's the right word for it? Cautious or just more sober-minded.
Yeah. I think a big difference between me and you on that one, by the sounds, is because I was in the Navy when I first got my motorcycle license. So we actually have it paid for us to take motorcycle safety foundation course if we want to. So my first time on a motorcycle by myself, not in the back of like somebody else's bike or on a dirt bike, was at that course. So I did the basic rider's course. It's 2 days. Like first day is half the day's classroom, the other half the day is actually on the bike, and then the second day is all on the bike. And then after that, I took experienced rider's course, because if you take basic rider course in the Navy and you don't bring your own bike, you're limited to whatever size bike you borrowed. Yeah. So I was limited to 450 cc's, but the bike that I bought from my buddy in that Honda was an 1100. So technically I wasn't supposed to be riding around on base on that thing, but I did anyways. And then I took my my experienced rider's course, which is just 1 day, pretty much refresher of basic rider, like maybe a half hour in the classroom, and then the rest of the days on the bike.
Yeah.
I did that. So I had a little bit different mental point, and the guy who was teaching the class was an actual Navy reservist that was sponsored by who was it? Crap, can't even think of the brand now. The Busa.
Interesting.
Because he wrecked his Hayabusa and then ended up putting it in his wife's smart car, the engine. His license plate was Smart Busa.
It's funny. A Fusa.
Yeah, I took that rider course. It was a 3-day deal, Friday through Sunday.
I recommend it for everyone. Anyone who wants to learn how to ride a bike, take the
Yeah.
NSF.
Yeah, because then you're using their bikes, you're using their helmets. I mentioned this before. If you are going to take it, the rider course, do not take it in June. It's hot as fuck.
I took mine in May in Washington. Keyport.
Yeah, ours was in mid to late June. Sweat my ass off.
I did have a question for Robert.
Yeah.
Because I know you were talking about it and you thought about it. You ever thought about like maybe just going like getting like a dirt bike and just having that for like in the woods in the weekend and kind of thing?
Yeah, but right now I don't have enough property for that. And what's sad is where I live used to be very much a rural farm area, but now it's become housing additions and warehouses. And I'm getting antsy to move further away from civilization for numerous reasons, mostly because I've never been particularly fond of civilization, even as a child. So, that would be something that would be fun to do. But, I also look at how much time I've got to do things, and it's like I've got my bass that I don't play nearly enough. I have my drum kit that I don't play nearly enough. I just recently acquired 3 guitars. So when it comes right down to it, there are certain things that I'm very passionate about, and music is one of the ones that trumps a lot of other stuff. So I would much rather do that. Plus, it's something. All of my sons are musical. That's a trait they all get from me, and it was something that I had always encouraged in them, even when they were young. Whereas my family kind of went out of their way to sabotage my ambitions. So I tried very hard not to do that with any of my boys. I remember telling my oldest son, if he wanted to play music for a living, to go for it. I would rather have him living in a van, playing in bars every weekend, absolutely loving his life, than being in some soul-sucking office 5 days a week, when that's just not what he wants to do. And especially since my oldest is actually really good naturally as a musician and picks stuff up very quickly and always has. And then one of my other sons is very similar to that. And in fact, the older one thinks he's the better musician and is even quicker at picking things up than him, and also has the benefit of a formal musical education, which my oldest son just naturally picked stuff up and played it. He had a little bit of band as far as in like junior high, and then he didn't like the structure and the formality of it and left that, but not his passion for music. And now I've got the younger one who has that interest as well. So I like the idea of hanging out with him on an afternoon as one of his school subjects and playing guitar or bass or drum and jamming with him and stuff like that. Because even if they don't do anything professionally with it to make money, I think there's a value in music.
Yeah.
I've always said that if the language of the universe is mathematics, that language, when spoken, is done in music. So So that's just kind of my thing. So yeah, I could spend more time playing music, or I could learn to ride a motorcycle. At 25, I probably would have said, yeah, I think I'd like to learn how to ride a bike, because there's a certain romance to that as well, that appeals to the the knight upon a horse riding. In fact, one of my favorite really weird kind of movies done by George Romero, who's best known for Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, is a movie called Night Riders. And it is kind of a movie about a traveling troupe of medievalists who joust and have combat, but instead of riding horses in armor, they wear the armor and they ride motorcycles. And it's kind of a strange movie. It's a very personal movie, I think, for George Romero. More so if you listen to the director's commentary, but I hadn't listened to the director's commentary when I had met Romero and talked to him about that movie. And it was it was a very interesting experience to kind of bond with this man whose work I admired as a child, and over one of his more obscure movies. And he seemed rather impressed that I got it. So that was kind of a cool moment for me, movie wise and fan wise. But no, so I mean, I like the idea of, putting on the leather and the gloves. That's like putting on the armor, and then, mounting your steed and heading off for adventure. The romance of that I absolutely get. And unfortunately, I think I'm gonna have to live vicariously through like Vince on that kind of stuff. And I appreciate the fact that he shares some of his travels like that, whether it's a video or photographs or an essay with some photographs and stuff like that, in like one of the Masculine Geek newsletters when they were sent out, or a post on the website or something like that. So yeah, I get it, but I think I just kind of missed my window of doing it. And I'm pragmatic enough. Hopefully I'm not too much of a pussy is what it comes down to, but it's just, there's only so much you can do. And
I
totally feel
agree
you there.
yeah,
I agree too. There's a lot of stuff I would like to do, and I might do theoretically, but it goes back to it. It doesn't just go back to time. Like, it's just time, but like the amount of effort you have to put into learning a new thing after a certain age.
yeah,
Where you tend to just stick with stuff where it's something that you're good at, or something that you just already know. Like, learn the being, I'm saying this is the younger guy here, but the teaching the old dog new tricks thing, after a certain point, after a certain age, it gets much more difficult, because you have more habits or eccentricities or things about you that you have to change in order to learn something. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's why it's, for a lot of men after a certain age, it is very difficult for them to change on a fundamental level, even when they should. And it's sad, because you finally come to the conclusion that there's some men that you hope would change, and you realize it's not realistic to expect them to change. Like, this is just, it's almost like a computer software. This is not Apple's or whatever. It's Windows. This isn't some other type of software that you want. This is the software that you have, and it will not change. So you either like it or you don't like it, and get something else.
Yeah, no, I totally get where Robert's coming from, and I can totally respect his position on it, because, like you said, he's in his upper years, and I learned how to ride motorcycle. Christ, I was 21 going on 22 when I finally got my license.
Mhm.
So there's a big age difference there. But like the whole music thing, man, I totally feel it. I mean, you can see my little bit of my bass behind me, and then my DDT strings,
yeah,
which I would have loved to learn music better, and I kind of slacked on it. First instrument I ever learned how to play on was clarinet, and then I moved to bass.
Mhm.
Oh, I was learning that too.
Bass is way better than clarinet. Just saying.
Oh no, But that's the thing. I my clarinet is in my closet over there, and some people have said, "Hey, why don't you take it up again?" And I was thinking, I could spend time learning how to relearn all the stuff that I have forgotten in 20 years. I just at this point I don't want to. And I'm like, so right now I've been throwing a lot of time, effort, and money into swing dancing or ballroom dancing, all that kind of stuff. And for me, it's more fulfilling than sitting alone in a room practicing the clarinet. I'm not part of a concert orchestra. I'm not part of a jazz band. I'm not part of a big band. Like, if it was 1929 or 1930 and I was part of a big band, it's like, yeah, I'd be working on my clarinet, practicing all the time. But it's like now I just don't have any reason to do that. And I think that part of that pursuit of certain hobbies, by the way, Robert, based on the conversation Saturday, I was Googling how to build your own smithy in your backyard.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Dude, I've thought about that in my retirement.
And I found out that
blacksmith board.
anvils are actually not that expensive. They're very cheap. They're like $30 to get an anvil.
Yeah.
Okay. This might be, and I saw some people coming up with these like DIY, do it yourself smithies. I was like, yeah, you know what? I could see myself doing that.
Yeah,
So,
there's something really cool to that. Now, see, the thing is, like with the clarinet, I could see, you totally digging, having a Benny Goodman vibe with the clarinet. Yeah. But the thing is, I don't care if anyone sees me play. I love the music. I just absolutely love music. It's if you took everything I owned away. And it's like brought it down to like, okay, you can have books or you can have music. You can't have them both. As much as I love books, as much as I love the written word, as much as just the knowledge of all that's stored in books, both philosophical, spiritual, actual intellectual, factual, scientific knowledge. Music is just, it's just everything. I've always said that, if you wanted a Rosetta Stone to figure me out, and I've even said this to a couple of women in my life, if you really want to understand me, if you want to understand the way my mind works, if you want to understand the way I think, you've got to read the books I read. But if you want to understand how I feel, my soul, my spirit, you've got to listen to my music.
I like that.
I mean, and that's really it. That is the Rosetta Stone to figuring me out. And even with that Rosetta Stone, I've been told by certain women, it's like, it is impossible to figure me out. And then there are the others who think they have me figured out, but yet, as we all know, a woman who has you figured out gets bored and leaves. So by virtue of the fact that they've not gotten bored and they haven't left yet, I would say, I'm still enough of a mystery to you to keep you around, or at least, orbiting my, my life. So, but no, that's what it comes down to. So, I mean, that's the passion. Would I like to play live? Would I like to get up in front of an audience and sing and perform? Absolutely. And I still get to do that in various ways, with some of the oration and stuff I do and narration and stuff I do. So, I and the costuming and the theatrical stuff, whether it's working at a convention in costume for someone, or just some other little thing. But those are the things I'm passionate about. And right now, I've just been much too busy, pretty much keeping somebody else's business in existence and working for someone else. So I like to get back to my passion. So yeah, it's going to be music. So I think but no, had I been 12 and been riding, dirt bikes since I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that's a totally different animal. And, I'm glad that there are guys that get to do that and still have that passion for bike riding. But, no, it wouldn't matter to me if I was in your situation, as passionate as I am about music. Yeah, the clarinet would be out of the closet whenever I have a free chance.
Yeah.
The fact that you don't do that is not a slight against you. It's just it's something you like, but it's not your passion. The dancing is your passion. That's awesome. And I also see that the benefits of that both in a social setting with with ladies and stuff.
Yeah.
I could sit at home by myself playing clarinet, or I could go dancing with cute girls. I completely get TJ's
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah. So
All right, gentlemen,
that's
we're gonna wrap this one up.
all right.
What was that?
So we
Wrap
can
it
wrap up. So Vince can wrap himself up in a blanket and die for a while, right?
Yeah, pretty
Like a
much.
Tootsie Roll.
Put the Vicks on the throat.
Yeah, I finished my tea. I'm gonna make another thing of hot tea. I'm surprised I made it this long. This is a good talk, gentlemen. I appreciate you hanging out as always. Everyone in the chat, good to see you, and thank you for joining us as always. A pleasure. Anyone who's listening to this later, who's made it this far, thank you for doing so. I did text him to confirm. I haven't heard anything back, but Friday is our road broadcast with Brian Bowden, the cryptozoologist and paranormal investigator. So we have that going. And then the following Wednesday, I do believe that is our Drew Bay campaign on the 10th. Yes. So this Friday is Brian Bowden, and then the 10th is Drew Bay's campaign. So that's what's in the works. All right. TJ, you want to take us out?
All right, guys, you know the drill. Keep the fires burning, keep the wine flowing, keep the lead shooting down range. Don't take anyone nickels. Don't drink all the rum, and tune into the next episode.
That's right. Very gay.